my name is Clive, and when I was a young boy, I loved to go to the beach. I'd spend hours there watching the people walk by, go swimming, and just lounge around on the sand. But my favorite type of people to watch were always the metal detectors. They had the coolest gadgets and always looked so interesting. I think my obsession with them started when I was watching one of these adventurers on the beach. Suddenly, his device started beeping like crazy, and when he dug it up, I couldn't believe what he'd found. It was an actual pistol. He was so happy with his find, and I was super jealous. Since that first day, I've been interested in the art of metal detecting. For my 18th birthday, I asked my parents for a metal detector just like the guys on the beach. That way I could find all sorts of treasure myself. I wasn't sure they would actually take me seriously, but then on my birthday, sure enough, they handed me a brand new metal detector. I was delighted and hugged them both tightly. I couldn't wait to try out my new present. The moment my party was finished, I grabbed my metal detector and headed to the woods near the back of our house. I set up the detector and began to sweep the area, combing low over the grass to try and pick up something for myself. I was about to give up when suddenly it beeped. I tried again and it beeped a second time too, so I grabbed my shovel and excitedly began to dig for the treasure I found. I thought it could be coins or even an ancient rifle or sword. When my shovel struck something hard, though, it was not a weapon like I thought, but it was just a bottle cap. I was a bit disappointed, I won't lie. But this one little bottle cap gave me the motivation to keep going with my metal detector. So I walked around in the woods more, hoping would find something more valuable than a bottle cap. It wasn't long before my metal detector started going crazy again. I didn't want to get my hopes up again, since last time it was disappointing. But secretly, I was hoping for something a lot better than just a bottle cap. When I was digging, though, my shovel is something much bigger than a bottle cap. When I dug it up, I found that it was a large shield. When I wiped all the dirt off, I found some strange markings on it. I took the shield to one of our local historians, and he was amazed. It turns out, this shield was from an ancient First Nations tribe that used to live around the area, and it was still in very good condition. He offered me a few $100 for it, so how could I say no to that? I sold him the shield, and walked back home feeling pretty proud of myself. For the next week, I spent almost all my time metal detecting around my parents' house and the woods around our place. I found a bunch more stuff. Some of it was more junk like quarters or bottle caps, but there was a few other finds that more than made up for them. I found spearheads, arrowheads, even a few ancient coins that were all worth quite a bit of money. Soon I had almost $1,000, but nothing was worth as much as the shield I found first. But there was a problem. I had already searched most of my land with my metal detector, so I went to my neighbor and asked him if I could do some metal detecting on his land. Since he owned another piece of the woods I was searching in, I hoped I'd be able to find more artifacts there too. He was very kind and told me to play my silly game on his land if I wanted. I was a little upset since he made it sound like my hobby was just a children's game, but he was also letting me on his land, so I let it slide this time. I thanked him, then continued with my search for First Nation artifacts. Over the next few weeks, I found a bunch more closer to where the original shield was found. It was mostly smaller items again, like coins and arrowheads, but they still fetched a big price from the local museum. They were very interested in all of my artifacts, and I was on pretty good terms with them. A few of them even went out with me to see where I was finding all these old relics. Everything was going normally, until one day as I was busy using my detector as usual. It started going off again. I noticed lately that a lot of the areas I'd been exploring in my neighbor's yard had been in a pattern, almost like a trail. This time my metal detector led me further down that trail and towards a large rock. Using my metal detector, I was able to find another treasure, a small knife. But something was off to me about this particular area, so I decided to snoop around a little more. That's when I found a small opening in the rocks. Crawling in, I retrieved a small wooden chest that looked ancient. When I opened it and took a look inside, my eyes grew wide as saucers. Inside was a small stash of coins, a bunch of old documents, and a few flintlocks and spices. I was so excited to bring the chest back to town. I took it directly to the museum and had them look at it for me. Sure enough, they deduced everything in there to be authentic, and they were absolutely astonished I'd even found something like this. The museum offered me a large sum of money for the chest and everything in it, and I happily accepted it. I was now pretty wealthy thanks to my metal detecting, but things only got crazier after that. My neighbor found out I'd earned a small fortune by metal detecting, and he demanded that I give him the money for the artifacts I found. I offered to split it 50-50 with him, but he refused. He wanted all the money since it came from his land. I wouldn't let him have everything, so he ended up taking me to court. I was pretty nervous. Maybe my neighbor was right and I should give up the money. It was his land after all. But I was in too deep to stop now, so I faced my fears and went to court. It wasn't a very large or a very long case, but the museum curators, the historians, and pawn shop owners all stood by me. They knew how hard I worked for the artifacts, and some of them even came with me sometimes. They argued that I should keep all the money. Since the neighbor also allowed me on his property, he couldn't claim I was trespassing either since I had his permission to be there and do metal detecting. Unsurprisingly, he lost the case, and I couldn't help but gloat a little. Look who's playing a silly game now. A few weeks later, a private collector bought the chest from the museum for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they gave me half of it. With that, and the money I got for winning the lawsuit, I was the richest 18-year-old in the whole town. I still metal detect these days, but I never found anything as valuable as that chest I found in the woods. Thanks for watching, like, share, and subscribe.